Good morning. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Bronx Pinstripes Show, second episode of the Mondays. How you feeling, Scott?
I'm feeling good, man. Feeling better. Feeling better after Orioles and Angels series transpired the way that they did. Thank God that the Orioles were able the Yankees were able to right the ship against the Orioles a little bit because the Angels series was just an extension of very bad.
So before we start talking, I think I'm glitchy again. This happened last week. I'm going to leave and come back and hopefully fix it. I have all my programs closed. I'll be right back, everybody.
Here we go with my split. Andrew's on his way back.
This is better.
Yeah.
This is the equivalent of just having to blow in the cartridge on an N64. It's just there's no rhyme or reason for why it's not working. You take it out, you clear the dust out, and you come back and boom, it's working for some unknown reason.
You asked me how I was feeling.
Oh, I heard that.
Well, let me reiterate it because I don't remember what I said. The after what we went through with the scoreless streak and finally getting a win in that series, so that the embarrassment of not getting swept by the Anaheim Angels was actually a thing. The Yankees started to hit the ball a little bit against the Baltimore Orioles. So I feel better today than I did 3 days ago going into the Orioles series, but I understand what the situation is. A lot of inconsistencies.
I mean, so yeah, I was thinking about this yesterday, actually. Now that we're doing the show once a week, it is a completely different vibe than what we had previously, where we were doing 2, sometimes 3 episodes a week, always after a series ended, and sometimes something else sprinkled in, where you could overreact to single games and single series, and then doing that for a once a week show is a lot more difficult. I still have those emotions, series in and series out, but you kind of start to think of it. It's like, well, every single season, every single baseball team goes through a slump collectively. Whether you're just looking at Judge struggling a little bit more than he had been all season, or the offense in general struggling a little bit more, or sometimes the pitching might go into it. Like whatever it is, like that's going to happen for the best and the worst baseball teams throughout history. So yes, you can sort of just chalk that up to, well, they stumbled. They ran into a Red Sox team playing better, and then they just didn't score runs for 30 innings. Like it's just like you doesn't matter what you do. If you don't score runs for 30 innings, you're going to lose baseball games. But then at the same time, I look at it and I'm like, well, they were still a team that was in positions to win those games against Anaheim. Extra innings game last Monday night, couldn't execute a run, couldn't bunt a guy over. They're literally trying to go for a 2 or a 3 run home run in extra innings when it's 0-0, and just scratching across that 1 run in extra innings wins you the game. You don't need to play for more in extra innings. You just need the 1, guys, and then you will win that game. Or I look at yesterday's game against Baltimore. Massive hit by Jazz. Awesome. 2 innings before that, they had second and third, nobody out. And then on a fly ball to right field, Judge is going halfway. I know it wasn't really a deep fly ball, but if that ball drops, you're going to score anyway. You go there and tag because the right fielder ended up having to slide for that ball, and then he's not able to score that run. They were in a second and third situation, and that was on Bellinger's ball. They were in a second, third situation and didn't score a run. It's just, I look at those situations and I'm like, what has changed with this team? It's still the same old struggles, whether it's defense, whether it's base running, whether it's swinging and missing in key spots late and close in games. I just feel like it's the same shit, different season with this team.
Well, you hit it, I think, with the way that doing the show once a week makes everything blend together, in the sense that you see the good and then you feel the bad, and then over the course of a week it tends to correct itself a bit. I mean, if you're going on longer than a weekend, maybe it was just because the show landed in between the stretch between the Red Sox and the Angels series. And if you had lumped all of that into one show, there would have been no qualms about looking at just
Right.
what that 1 week was. But we got divided. Thank God. Thank for my sanity. But yes, it does. It shows you that first of all, one of the big things that I've realized is that you and Neil and Frank in our group chat have been thrown just completely bitching about Volpe all the time. Frank and I are the only ones that try to, like save the narrative, even if there's a little bit of saving. And I don't even try anymore, to be honest. At this point, it's just Frank. But one thing I realized, and I looked up, because if you remember back, the big discussion about Volpe at the time was, do we anoint him as the shortstop? Do we go out and we get a free agent in that free agent class? Because the free agent class was loaded that year.
Right.
Correa was there. Dansby Swanson was there.
I wouldn't lamp Dansby Swanson in with Carlos Correa and Corey Seager.
He was part of it. No,
yeah, but he was definitely a step down in player.
He was part of it. There were the three of them. He was part of it. Correa was really never in the conversation because of everything. And it was, I don't even remember Seager really being part of
no,
like
the Yankees never went after him.
Yeah. So Dansby Swanson was the one that if you're looking at like realistically and landing a guy that has somewhat of a proven track record in the shortstop, he was the guy for a lot of Yankees fans. I remember him being that overwhelming guy. You look at what Volpe does this year, and you put Dansby Swanson, put their numbers side by side. They're almost identical. They're damn near the same numbers. And I think what that just shows you is that offense across the league in general is just down. Period. It's just down. Pitching is just that much more dominant. You even saw the reports last week when McCutchen was talking about the balls, being dead balls, and MLB saying that they're not going to, address anything or make any changes in the middle of the season or whatnot. But I mean, pitching's dominant right now. We know that pitching is absolutely dominant.
Baseball's just they're baffled with their baseballs again, even though they own the company. They don't know what's going on.
Yeah, can't control something that you own either. But yeah, you're looking at Volpe, and I know a lot of people are scratching their head at this guy. He went through an absolutely terrible streak of hitless baseball, along with the Yankees of scoreless baseball. It was right coinciding, and I know he broke out more this weekend, but across the league, like that shortstop position just isn't what it was, and you're seeing a lot of these offensive numbers just be very far down. So what I'm realizing is that the micro issues that the Yankees are having currently are not just the Yankees. It is certainly more of a league-wide epidemic.
Yeah, offense around the league sucks. And that's why what Judge was doing this season is even more impressive. When if to take it back to the steroid era, when everyone was hitting 30 home runs, or even to take it back to the juice ball era at the 2016 through, call it 2019 or whatever, when everyone is hitting 30 home runs no longer becomes impressive. Now, when the league batting average is 237 or whatever it is, and Judge is hitting 370 or was damn near 400 for 2 months of the season, that becomes that much more impressive. But do you want to have the Anthony Volpe conversation? And this is not going to be just, this is not going to be me just screaming and ranting, because yes, you're right. Shortstop offense in general around the league is down. So when you look at Anthony Volpe compared to Dansby Swanson or compared to the rest of the league, I just looked it up. He has a 104 OPS plus right now, 4% better than league average. My problem with Volpe is that, and this might be a me problem, I thought he was going to be better. And it's not just me thinking, like I saw there was that Michael K clip going around where it's like, if you think he's going to be Derek Jeter, you're wrong. Okay, no, I didn't think he was going to be Derek Jeter, but he was their top prospect. He was a top Major League Baseball prospect in the top 15, 20. I don't remember exactly where.
I think he was even higher than that, actually. You remember Logan pulling that up?
He was untouchable in trades.
Mm-hmm.
He skyrocketed through the Yankees minor league system. And the entire time we were told his offense will play at the major league level. His glove needs a little bit of work, but we do not have to worry about his bat when it gets to the major league level. And what we got was the complete opposite. A seemingly shorthanded shortstop who was actually playing above average, like really good defensive shortstop, with a bat that did not seem to play in the major league level outside of random spurts of flashes. And now this season, yeah, his offense has picked up a little bit. A 104 is okay. He's basically league average, a little bit better. He leads the league in errors at shortstop. He's made back-breaking errors like we had the other night against Baltimore. A would-be sure double play that he just absolutely booted and then threw the ball away and lost the game for the Yankees. That's in the middle of a stretch where he was hitless for an entire week. Yes, I know he got 3 hits on Saturday. But then you think about it and you're like, okay, he's hitless the entire week. He plays every single day. Maybe it's time for a day off for him. No, he doesn't get a day off on Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday or Friday when he's in the middle of a slump and maybe he needs a mental reset. He gets a day off, a scheduled day off on Sunday after he finally gets 3 hits.
I mean, you can't make that stuff up. So a lot of your gripe has to do with outside influences to Anthony Volpe as well.
And
it's
so
the organization and what Boone,
the way they've treated Volpe. Every other prospect in the last 10 years has not gotten the runway that Anthony Volpe gets. Just compare him to Jason Dominguez. Yeah. Jason Dominguez is riding the bench 2 or 3 times a week. And I know the Yankees had Trent Grisham play out of his mind for the start of the season, and that was unexpected. And maybe if that doesn't happen, Dominguez is not sitting as much. But was it last episode we were complaining about why is Dominguez not getting more of a shot against lefties? Like, he's a switch hitter. You want him to actually hit lefties? Maybe play him against lefties. You don't have to bat him in the middle of the order against lefties. Hit him 9th for all I care. Just get him some freaking at-bats against lefties. But no. He gets pulled he was in the first couple weeks of the season, pulled 6th, 7th inning for defense. They're treating him with beyond kids gloves. They're treating him with I don't trust you gloves. You compare that to Volpe, who from day one of being called up has played basically every day. He's had like top 3 most plate appearances in Major League Baseball the last 2+ seasons. He has gotten so much runway and basically has not really improved. Like, you want to say his offense improved from year 1 to year 2. It improved in certain areas. It improved in batting average, but he lost power. So his OPS plus went from like 86 to 91. Now it's at 104. Let's see where he ends the season. If he ends at 104 or 106 or something, then yeah, that is a legitimate step forward. But if it ends at 98 or 97, like, what are we talking about here? So he went from 91 to 97. Like, is that really an improvement? So with all this playing time, you'd think he'd be better by now. Any other prospect in the Yankees, probably most other teams, given a guy that much playing time, would start to change how they're acting towards him. But the Yankees are not for some reason. And I don't know if it's because they're pot committed with him and they decided in that massive free agent shortstop class that we're not going outside the system. We're going to develop Anthony Volpe, and they're sort of stubborn, to a point where we're going to develop him no matter what's happening. Or they don't believe that Peraza can play shortstop or anyone else can play shortstop in the organization.
That's it. That's a big deal. Who's the other player that's going to come in and take, besides George Lombard Jr.?
Well, he's not ready. He's not ready. But here, okay, I'm not suggesting the Yankees bench Volpe permanently and play Peraza. But answer this question honestly. If Peraza over the past 2.5 seasons got the playing time Volpe did, how much worse do you think the Yankees shortstop production would be?
Yeah, I think the power would be down, but for the most part, I think you're not wrong.
Probably be unnoticed.
Yeah, you're right. There's not much of a difference there, but I think that's the biggest reason why he's playing every single day. First of all, I whether you have someone who can, legitimately come and play that position at a competitive level to what he's doing currently, I think that is kind of besides the point for him getting a breather and being able to manage him during a stretch like this. The fact that it bothers me very much that Aaron Boone is saying, doesn't give this kid who clearly had been struggling for so long a breather or some type of a mental break in the middle of this, but yet has a scheduled off day the day after he breaks out. It makes no sense.
Well, it's scheduled. We can't possibly change it because it's on the schedule.
It's just part of that narrative that's just absolutely ridiculous on Aaron Boone, on how everything is programmed and there's no deviation from the program because of if the ink is dry, then that is what it is. That is beyond frustrating to see that, because obviously when a kid breaks out, has multiple hits in a game after not getting a hit in a ridiculous amount of plate appearances, you keep him going, let him feel good and keep it going.
Did you hear his quote about it? What Boone said?
No.
He said he wanted to let the hits simmer.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, let them marinate, right? Like let it build.
It's like when it's like in college, I used to complain because I lived in a frat house. Disgusting. It's like 9 dudes in a frat house. Someone would like drink water out of a glass, and instead of washing the glass, they'd just let it soak in the sink. So there was just piles of dishes and stuff in the sink, just simmering. Just let it soak. Yeah.
Yours was much different than mine. There was definitely no soaking of anything. It was just there collecting.
Oh, no, that's what I mean. That's what people were saying. I'm letting it soak. 2.5 months later, it's still soaking.
Yeah. But so that's the info. The Yankees in Volpe, there is nobody there to play. And I think that's the biggest difference between him and Dominguez. Obviously with Dominguez, there are, it's a crowded outfield. And especially when you add a hot Grisham to the mix to start the season, like there's playing time to be, that's going to be, very competitive at that point. And I get that, but at the same time, you've seen someone cool off. You've gotten to a point now. Dominguez is one of the biggest prospects that the organization has had in a very long time as well. And you got to let him play. So yes, there's a huge difference in how they're treating them. I do think the playing time comes down to what the competition looks like and the fact that you can't ignore what's happening over here with Trent Grisham. You can't ignore what Cody Bellinger can and should be for this team. You can't ignore that, that obviously Judge is there. And now that Stanton's back, there's a lot of competition for the spots in the lineup, but really there's no competition for Anthony Volpe. There really isn't. I mean, you could say Peraza, but like, again, Thomas Crowley in the comments is saying a lot worse as far as the production for Volpe. Maybe
we don't know that. Like
you could say, I could say I don't know that about anything, with it not happening, but Peraza could be a sub 200. He hasn't shown anything.
He hasn't shown anything, but
Volpe's above 200. So I'm sure the numbers would be worse. Yet, if you were to play every day and get that playing time, who knows if you were to catch.
That's my point.
Catch a bid.
That's my point is like Peraza has hit in the minor leagues. So I don't think he's going to be a productive major league offensive player. I agree with you. My point is that Volpe's had 700 plate appearances his first 2 major league seasons and is below league average. Like I think Peraza, given 700 major league plate appearances, would be probably in the 80 to 90 OPS plus range, which, to be clear, sucks. But that's what Volpe's been.
Yeah, but I think that's the biggest reason why he's been the anointed one, because there is nobody else right now until you start seeing Lombard break down the door a little bit more and prove that he can, move up the levels, make the adjustment hit, move up the level, make the adjustment hit. But he's within a throwing shot at this point. So you're looking squarely down the barrel of a competition in 2026.
Well, it would be very interesting to see how the Yankees progress Lombard after heavily committing to Anthony Volpe.
I think that he's going to dictate how this all goes. We've said this in the past about a lot of guys. Spencer Jones was one of them. If Spencer Jones were to come out this season and break down that door and show that his plate discipline is, has improved, show that he can hit AA pitching and get into AAA, like maybe he'll break down the door and we'll see something. But he hasn't.
He's got a 30% strikeout rate in the minors.
There's still a very big issue with plate discipline for him and striking out too much. And so I think Lombard's in the exact same situation. And granted, now there's competition in the outfield enough where you don't have to do anything to push him along. You just let him progress. But Volpe now, in the struggles that he's had with Lombard, if Lombard comes up and just breaks down the door with how he hits in Double-A, and maybe gets a quick cup of coffee in Triple-A, even if that there's an opportunity there in some capacity towards the end of the season when the minor league season is dwindling down, and there's not a sacrifice of playing time for the kid. But you're looking at 2026. The Yankees aren't going to be able to stop that. The Yankees,
do they move his position though?
I mean, that's possible. I guess
outfield, it's a lot trickier with an infield position versus an outfield, because if a guy's a center fielder, you move him to left, or left field, you move him to right. It's like you can shift guys around in the outfield a lot easier than you can shift them around in the infield.
But they haven't been doing that with his playing time.
Well, they haven't been doing that yet, because I think
he's coming out of the gate. I think that he's
in single A.
Play third base for a bit and see what happens. But they've been playing him at shortstop. I understand that. My point is that he can dictate how fast it comes up, because I think at this point, if he's breaking down the door, they're gonna figure it out. But you're looking at 2026 spring training as something that'll be interesting to watch.
What do you think's going on with the errors this year from Volpe?
I think that the Gold Glove year he tracked higher than he actually is. I think that a lot of the defensive metrics, usually when you watch defensive metrics in the minor leagues and there's a scouting report, over a longer period of time, that scouting report's probably going to be pretty accurate. I think if you're looking at the translation between minor league and major league fielding, I mean, there's, again, the field is the same. You're fielding a lot of the same ground balls. There's not a huge difference when you're looking at what that looks like. And so I think he's just kind of like, it's like a mean reversion. That's what I think it is. And I think that errors sometimes can sometimes be just, as you've argued in the past, make it look worse. Whereas,
defensive metrics are about your range, about your arm strength, about the plays that otherwise, call it league average shortstops, don't get, or however they measure it. It's like, oh, that ball, Volpe got to that ball and other shortstops don't get to that ball. So he's providing additional defensive value there. That's different than a ball right hit at him and he just boots it, and it should have been a double play and he just booted it. And that's happened a few times this season in some, not just like random off. We also made an error in the first inning again when Max Fried was pitching the other day. It didn't let him. He didn't let it beat him because he got the next guy to ground into a double play. But we're not talking about first or second inning errors here. This is an 8th inning tie game error that allowed a run to score.
Yeah, it was an egregious error. It was an egregious error. Tim Hill comes into the game, gets the ground ball he absolutely needs, and not only booted and then thrown away.
Hold on. By the way, Weaver comes off the IL. 0 rehab pitches. 8th inning tie game. Oh, he didn't have his command? Weird. Didn't see that one coming. What are we doing here?
Yeah, no, I know. The fact that the guy didn't throw anything for any kind of a rehab, and then it's one of those situations.
And then after the game, so media in general is starting to piss me off, because I feel like difficult questions, whether it's to coaches, managers, general managers, they're just not asked. And I think it's because I don't know if it's not valued anymore in fans. Like, they rather just watch the home run highlights and just this is fun, I want to watch TikTok clips of my team, and not actually have like critical questions and criticism of the team. But how do you not ask Boone post game, why did you use Weaver in a tie game in the 8th inning after he sat out for 3 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever it was and didn't throw a single rehab pitch? How is that not a question you ask him?
I don't know. It's got to be a question you ask him. That's the one large question that's looming at that point at post game. These guys used to be piranhas coming at them and asking the questions about judgment calls and reasons why people do certain things. Maybe they just know they're not going to get an answer, and that's
you still have to ask. I don't care. Your only job as a reporter covering the team is to ask the question. If you don't get the answer and the manager sort of dances around it, okay, you did your job. Yeah. Let him sweat in the spotlight of the obvious question.
It's true. I mean, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, because there should be a lot more of those questions, frankly, to Aaron Boone, because of the decision making that he chooses to go with. in game. And a lot of it, again, is because it's all programmed before the game. And that's the reason why it happens.
What kind of
in the game.
dumbass program says, yeah, let's use Weaver in a tie game in the 8th inning after he hasn't thrown a pitch in 4 weeks?
8th inning, Weaver. That's as far as that goes.
Not opportunity. There would have been an opportunity the next game, 9-0, get him a nice easy runway in the 8th or 9th inning. No, use him in the tie game after not throwing a pitch in 4 weeks.
No, that's exactly what you do. He's your closer. So, or maybe he's not your closer anymore.
Yeah, I don't know anymore. Doesn't look like he's the closer anymore.
8th or 9th inning guy, and that's what the situation was. So you got to throw him in there.
I got sidetracked with that, but getting back to Volpe, you saying it's maybe going regression back to the mean. That's interesting. If that would be the case, do you think if his defense wasn't upper echelon the first 2 seasons, he would have had the runway that they gave him? Because I feel like it was easy for them to say, well, he's playing elite defense and we're getting value there. We're going to let his offense come along slowly. If he was making if he was leading the league in errors at shortstop and had a below average offense, it would have been really hard to defend.
I think it would have been a lot more difficult to defend. But again, when you're looking at who the alternative is at this point, there's not much. I mean, Peraza, we know was
then Peraza
glove for the most part.
Exactly. But then fans could have been like, well, if you put Peraza there, you're not going to get offense, but at least you'll get defense. And then
there's no upside, but there's no upside at that point. Like there's no like, hey, we're just letting this kid, get in there to get the reps. Again, like it comes down to Peraza is not competition for this. He's just funny how quickly, the other guy there.
It's funny how quickly that happens, because when they were coming up, they were like two of the top shortstop prospects.
But just to anybody watching this game, it didn't happen quickly. We all knew that Peraza wasn't going to be a major league shortstop, an everyday shortstop. It's not.
When did we know that?
He was the other name. But he never hit. He always had an opportunity where he was hitting like. I mean, it took a long time for him to even break Mendoza. Like he was struggling mightily on the offensive side coming up.
He hit 300 in AAA.
In AAA, yes. But again, like he's never done anything offensively in the major league level. So there's never been that guy who said, knocking on the door, say, Volpe, you better pick it up, because if at worst they're even, and you might as well give the opportunity to the guy with the upside. That's kind of where it is.
Well, if you're looking for a shortstop, or if you're if you're a small business owner and you don't, and you're looking for a new employee, you should be using LinkedIn Jobs. If you're a small business owner, you don't have the luxury of clocking out early because your business is on your mind 24/7, 365. And when you're hiring, you're going to need a partner that grinds just as hard as you do. I recommend LinkedIn Jobs to be that partner. You post your job on LinkedIn. They also have different features that can help you write job descriptions to get your post out in front of applicants quickly and easily. You can post it for free, or you can promote it. Promoting jobs gets 3 times more qualified applications. The most important thing is getting those qualified candidates. That's why 72% of small to medium businesses using LinkedIn say it helps them find high quality candidates. And you can let your network know that you're hiring by adding the hiring frame to your profile picture, which gets even more qualified candidates in the door. Posting a job on LinkedIn is not only going to get you better results, it is super easy. Last year with Blue Wire, we posted a job on LinkedIn and we were reviewing qualified applications later that same day. I was amazed at how quick it was. Find out why more than 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring today. Find your next great hire on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/Bronx, linkedin.com/Bronx to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Thank you very much for LinkedIn for sponsoring our pod pretty much the entire month. Anything else on Volpe, or you think we've beat that down?
I think we've exhausted Volpe. I'm glad that he came out in this Orioles series and got some hits. It's unfortunate that he had to sit after he did that.
It was kind of funny though that the hits were like a 50-foot infield single and a blooper. He did hit a home run, but it was.
I was going to say, let's not forget about the home run. Yes, it was a home run, but anywhere else it would have been a scorching double. Okay.
So you got 2 extra bases for being.
Yeah, he hit the ball hard.
All right, so let's talk about Jazz, because that was a massive hit. I had sort of mentioned that the Yankees were stumbling all over themselves trying to score late in that game, on Sunday against the Orioles. He, since his return on June 3rd, has actually been very good. He's hitting 350 with a 987 OPS. That's 17 games since he's been back. It's funny, though, because the numbers are what they are, but at the same time, I'm like, damn, I still feel like there's a lot of at-bats where Jazz is just swinging for the fences and swinging and missing. I looked at his Baseball Savant page. He's very much all or nothing. This
is a full season Savant page, the stats you're looking at, or the one since he got back?
No, this is his full season. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I just feel like he's been in all or nothing. Not just
he is 70% now, right? This is the 70% era. This is the new Jazz, the him hitting 70% of 100% of his capacity, making sure that he's throwing the barrel to the bat 70% of the time. So not just going at 100% effort every single time. 70% effort is good for Jazz with that swing, and Locke brings him back a little bit. You know what I mean? Kind of like a Cam Maben middle of the field approach.
Well, it's true, because we joked when he hurt his oblique in that Baltimore series when they were at Camden Yards, he did it on a pitch, stayed in the at-bat, and hit a double down the line the next pitch because he just took an easy swing because his oblique was strained. So he probably was in a lot of pain.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if Jazz did not come back and be the guy that he is right now, the Yankees would be in a significantly worse position, because he has been the offense since coming back. And obviously yesterday, I mean, he was everything. That play coming around third base where he lost his shoe and the ball was up the line, that was such an interesting play to watch on replay too, because you could tell that it's like he tried. Have you seen these like computer generated replays that they're doing now, where they show like the figure and like they're weird. They do it in basketball too, but
we can't get TrackMan on the ball to see if the ball's
fair. They have exactly what happened in a computer generated way immediately available. But when you look at him coming down that line, like you could tell that he tried to step inside towards the inside of the base path, because he's trying to avoid where the catcher was. You could see that the catcher was going up the line, and he just got smoked. I mean, absolutely pummeled. But the guy has been the offense for the Yankees, and you know, whether he's pulled back his the amount of effort that he has in every single swing, and is able to just go more bat to ball, and is, you know, the equivalent of a guy who's a pitcher taking a little bit off of it to locate the pitches, whatever. But this is a very good thing, because if you remember when he came over. When did he come over last year? It was around now, wasn't it?
No, it was trade deadline.
Was it at the trade deadline, or was it before? Was that deal earlier?
I thought it was the week of the trade deadline.
Maybe it was. When he came over, you know, there was an injection of energy, of offense, and I kind of feel like that's what's happened since he's been back. He's been very good.
So just to talk about those numbers on Baseball Savant. So his expected weighted on base, his expected slugging, his barrel percentage, his chase percentage, interestingly, and his walk percentage are all very good. All 64 percentile or better, with his barrel percentage being in the 81st percentile and his walk percentage, believe it or not, being in the 83rd percentile. His expected batting average, average exit velocity, hard hit percentage, sweet launch angle and sweet spot percentage, squared up percentage. They're adding things as we go. Whiff percentage and K percentage, all bad.
What's the LA sweep percentage?
Launch angle.
Oh my God. Okay. So what's the difference between that and barrel?
We've done this before.
Yeah, but launch angle, sweet spot, and barrel. I mean, that isn't the launch angle sweet spot on the barrel?
No. Launch angle, the angle that with the ball, the angle that the ball comes off the bat. Yeah. So if you can hit a ball on the barrel, if you hit it on the ground, you barreled that ball,
but you didn't hit it in the
you
right
didn't
spot
get it
on
in
the barrel.
But you didn't get it in the air. And launch angle sweet spot is getting the ball in the air. I don't know what the degrees are, but I'm sure they can't be too high, because then it's a pop-up, and if they're too low, that's a ground ball. And nerds don't like pop-ups, and they don't like ground balls. They like home runs.
Yeah. Okay. Look, I see barrel percentage up there, and I like it.
But hard hit percentage bad. That's the thing with these.
I see 81% barrel percentage. Okay,
I know, but it's just so funny. Well, it's because you know why?
A lot, because of the torpedo.
Yeah,
because they've dialed it in so that he can. Great. They've dialed it in. They've they've built this platform where you can dial things in on the batting side with a bat, and you can actually adjust legally where the sweet spot of your bat is based on your swing. Okay, awesome. Guess what? The pitchers are going to change the way that they approach you after you do that as well. Probably going to change the numbers over the long term. But the fact that he's barreling up the percentage of the barrels is at the 81 percentile is a very good thing. And again, if he's able to hit that barrel more consistently and not have the max effort, but he's able to barrel it up, like he's got that swing that's like it's free and easy, but it's a lot of it's mechanical. Like when he hits that bat, his hips are going through the zone. He throws his barrel at the ball, and when he does it, he makes good contact. So him swinging the bat harder to make the same contact on the barrel, I think gives him that variation of inconsistency. Whereas bat to ball, the guy's got unbelievable hand-eye coordination, just hit bat to ball. And that's what we've been seeing since he's returned.
Yeah, I would like to see if his whiff and K percentage improve over the course of the season, because it was really bad early in the season. His chase percentage is solid, but his whiff and strikeout percentage are low, which means he's swinging and missing at balls in the zone.
Yeah.
And so I'd like to see if he does cut back on his swing a little bit. You're talking about the 70% type of thing. Do those K and whiff percentages start to get better? In theory, they should.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's part of his game. I think he's got elite bat to ball abilities. I think they're I don't know
if I agree with that. I think what he has is he's got like the ball flies off his bat. You see that yesterday. That was he did not take a hard swing on that ball. That ball was actually sort of outer half of the plate. He just put barrel on the ball. He let his hands and his wrists do the work, and the ball went basically to the wall in right center field.
Yes, when he's mechanically right, that the swing is effortless, and it's got a lot of power.
This is a weird comparison to make, and I'm not saying they're the same type of hitter, but go look at what?
I don't know. I'm expecting a terrible comparison right now.
Go look at Darryl Strawberry's swing and look at Jazz Chisholm's swing. They have a lot of similarities, and a lot of similarities in the sense that when Darryl Strawberry would hit a home run, you'd be like, it looked like he just waved at the ball and it went 480 feet. It's because he had such explosiveness through the zone with his hands and his wrists, and he was tall and lanky. Jazz is tall and lanky, that it sort of had like whip through the zone. And when Barrel gets on ball, it flies.
Yeah. Also the one arm release, the
not a terrible comparison. You thought it was going to be worse.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be worse than that. The follow through, it does look similar in the way that they watch their home runs. But again, to me, those guys have elite bat to ball skill. I think their hand eye coordination is elite. And when you have when you're pushing too hard, when you're stretching it too hard, you're trying to swing too hard, I think you get in your own way a bit. And if you're doing that, you need to be able to dial it back. And some of those guys just aren't able to do that. They have to go at 100%, 110% all the time. And they're swinging out of their shoes. If you're able to dial it back, if you're able to, take that almost like you would see, there's a bunch of guys that do this with two strikes. I mean, they dial it back. They choke up. Rizzo used to do it all the time. He used to choke way up on the bat. He used to crowd the plate. And he used to make, his two-strike approach was extremely different than any of his other approach. To me, that's just like that. That's where you see that. I know they don't like that, but that's where you see the that elite bat to ball type skill. And if you're able to do that, there's a concession, I think, in the exertion that you have against the ball.
I think those types of approaches are probably not coached anymore in the minors, because it's all about launch angle and barrel percentage and hard hit percentage, and that hitting the ball to the right side to move a runner, or just put bat on ball to get it through a drawn in infield, is not valued anymore.
It's a damn shame, because you know who would really benefit from that? Anthony Volpe. Anthony Volpe choking up with two strikes and just being able to poke the ball somewhere would be such a game changer, I think, for his approach. And if I don't know if he's able to do this again, you have to be able to do this as well. But having that two strike approach, I agree with you. I think it's become a bit of a lost art because of the, all or nothing approach. And I mean, you see this with the extra inning games as well.
And I was just going to segue into the extra inning games, where I know I mentioned this at the top, but there was that Monday game where they lost 1-0 in 11 innings. So they had 2 opportunities to scratch across the free runner at second base, and they couldn't do it. And you saw them in the 10th inning in a 0-0 extra inning game, almost playing for base hits. And you're like, don't you guys understand you just need to score that run and you win the game? Like, how is that not practice? Like, how is that not valued when there's a front office looking at that? Like, we could have a win right now if we had players that could execute a ground ball or a bunt and a fly ball.
Yeah. I don't know the answer to that and how they're brought up, but you do have guys on this team that we haven't had in a while that I think have the ability. Like Paul Goldschmidt is that type of guy.
Well,
If DJ LeMahieu is healthy,
he tried to bunt and he couldn't.
I know,
and that was it. Kind of.
But for the most part,
when
you're looking at the again, but it goes back to like, when's the last time? When are you working on these types of things? But he's able to locate the ball.
DJ should be working on
the ball. DJ should be working on everything. He does work on everything. I'm going to give him the benefit. He just didn't execute in that moment. But you do have guys who can hit the ball to the right side. Or yesterday he pulled the ball for the first time in a very long time. There was a ball that was left up in the zone and he actually pulled the ball, which that was the play that Jazz had the collision, wasn't it?
Yes. No, so that situation where DJ was up there bunting, which makes sense. So they had the right idea. They just couldn't execute it. I'm like, oh, DJ, I would have bet my life that you would have got that bunt down. I really would have.
Yeah. But they do have some guys that are able to do that more so than they have in the past. And Judge can hit the ball anywhere. He can.
I thought you were going to say Judge can bunt. I was like, that's
no, he's not bunting, but he can spray the ball. He can do whether you want him to or not, he can do it. He's got the ability to hit the ball anywhere in the ballpark, including over the fence. But I think they're built more so this year than they have been in the past to execute on that. You just have to have the right guy up.
Was there a small part of you that wanted them to break the scoreless streak? Just to maybe change some things?
Well, no, because nothing changes.
I know. The question was asked, Neil asked us if they broke the scoreless streak, would Boone be fired? Like, no, they just fire the hitting coach.
Yeah, one of the hitting coaches. Yeah. No, Boone's untouchable. That's what I am. That's what I have given myself to. I just that's the only thing I can believe is that he's untouchable.
Mm-hmm.
If Brian Cashman's up there in George's box, then Aaron Boone's untouchable. That's just the reality of the situation.
Apparently he's untouchable as far as difficult questions from the media.
He's untouchable in multiple ways. The guy is can do no wrong.
So they also
sitting the one time you sit your shortstop, the anointed shortstop, is after he gets 3 hits.
Also. The other thing they asked about Volpe in that same game, who made the error, and Boone talked about he's not worried about his offense because he's been having good batting practice. Okay, translated to 3 hits the next day, so I guess he was right on that. But what about the error? What about the error, Boone? Can you talk to us about the error?
The thing with that error is that what are you supposed to come off of? What are you supposed to look at from that error and say, besides the fact that he took his eye off the ball? He didn't. You look at the replay.
It's not about the specific error.
Look at the replay. His eyes are not. He's ahead of the play. He's trying to do something before the ball is even remotely close to him.
Yeah.
He wasn't even looking anywhere near his glove at that point when the ball was going in. It was a moment where Anthony Volpe didn't execute a thing that he's supposed to execute, that every major league player is expected to execute. It was a ball hit right at him. It was a tailor-made double play, and he botched it in multiple ways.
And so, yes, any single error can happen. That's again why when Judge dropped that ball in the World Series, as infuriating and disheartening as it was, I was still more upset about Cole not covering first base, because physical errors happen. Mental errors should not happen. Okay. And they especially should not happen in key spots. And so, yes, you're right. But this is not a one-off error from Volpe. He leads the league in errors.
No,
so
the American League. I know this, but I'm saying
that's better.
Well, there are some guys in the National League that have more errors than him. Okay, I'm just clarifying. When you're seeing him do exactly what he did in the way that he did that, I don't know what you take away from that. You know what I mean? I don't know what you take away from that besides just him not executing the full play and being able to be in that moment and make sure that he does his job and secures the ball before you make a throw.
I would like him to be asked why do you think there's a trend this season that he's making so many errors when a guy who has been so good defensively his first 2 major league seasons?
Again, I think errors can come in bunches. I think errors it's hard to look at errors in a shortened span of time. You have to look at the full season and see what happens, because there's probably going to be a 2-month stretch here where he doesn't make an error or, makes very few errors. And then all of a sudden you're looking at the end of the year and the numbers probably are right around the same where it was before.
Right.
That's my feeling on that. Do I think he's a good defensive shortstop? Yeah, I think he's good. Nothing that Anthony Volpe, there's nothing athletically that jumps out to me about him with his glove. Like nothing, his glove work isn't exceptional in my opinion. He's got good range to get to the places his glove,
his arm is average.
Is average to it's enough. I think he's a solid shortstop. But there's nothing that's like, wow, this guy dazzles. He's not that guy. He'll make dazzling plays occasionally because he's an athletic kid. But the glove work, I'm looking at glove work a lot of the time. And for a guy that you can really pick it, and he's just, he doesn't light it up in that regard.
No. And he should be making every easy double play hit to him.
Anything that's within his 5 feet of either side of him, he should make that play no matter what.
Clark Schmidt. How about Clark? 7 no-hit innings.
7 no-hit innings. And go back, to the start before that. The
7 2/3 shutout. Yep.
Ended a 25 1/3 scoreless inning streak. That's a very long streak. Clark Schmidt has been very good since he's come back. And I know that everybody wants to see him do this against the opponents that he needs to do it against. But when you're looking at his evolution as a pitcher, when's the last time you thought that Clark Schmidt would go 7+ innings, 2 starts in a row?
Well, I just look at the opponent, and if no, I'm just kidding.
No,
I have nothing. No, of course not. No, because Clark, but I have nothing wrong with Clark Schmidt. Clark Schmidt is their 4th or 5th starter. He's a good 4th or 5th starter. He'll have spurts where he pitches 25 1/3 and 2/3 scoreless innings, which is fantastic. And then he'll struggle in certain starts because that's what you get out of middle to back of the rotation guys. They spent $1 billion on the top 3 pitchers in this rotation. So Clark Schmidt doesn't need to be a number 1, number 2, or a 3. Obviously this year Cole's out, but he's there for the 4th or 5th spot. And I think he's really good as that in any rotation. And that's kind of what Weaver is also developing into. Weaver with a rough first inning yesterday, if not for the pickoff in that first inning, could have been a lot worse, but he settled in to his credit.
Warren. Yeah.
Warren. Sorry, Warren.
How are you talking about Weaver?
I said Weaver both times. Yeah, I meant Warren.
You did. Yeah. Warren again, like both his last 2 starts, got bit early and then settled in and gave the Yankees depth. Like to me, that's what you're looking at as 4 or 5. What Clark Schmidt has been doing is better than that. He's exceeding what he would be as a 4 or 5. When you go that long, scoreless streak, like there's not a 4 or 5 in the league that does that.
No, I'm talking about what he needs to be on this team.
Yeah, that's fine. But if he's clearly exceeding that. And one of his biggest issues early in his career was that he couldn't go deeper into a game because of his pitch count, because of the amount of walks that he has, because he's missing locations. And he's really cleaned a lot of that up. And when you're saying that he gets into trouble, like he doesn't get knocked around. He's not the guy that he doesn't have blow up starts like Carlos Rodon has blow up starts. Carlos Rodon can go from, a guy that looks unbelievable and get into the 8th inning. Both these guys have actually gotten deeper into the game than they have in the past as a Yankee, but he's got these blow up potential starts. Whereas Clark Schmidt doesn't really have that. He's got the ability to limit damage, I think, for the most part, if he's over the strike zone. And to his credit, his evolution as a pitcher has really come with his command. And again, I think the same thing with Warren. I think these guys are actually very similar pitchers in the sense that they are so command heavy because they don't have that overpowering stuff. They are the opposite of what Luis Gil is, who is working his way back, throwing a bullpen session, doing the things that he needs to do. Thankfully. but they're the opposite. Like if you take these two, put Warren and Schmidt in one camp and put Luis Gil in another camp and compare the makeup of the pitchers. Luis Gil has the overwhelming dominant stuff where he can still make guys swing and miss and doesn't have to be all the way around the strike zone. He can get away with 3 to 4 to 5 walks and still come out with 6 scoreless innings because of the strikeouts and what he can do, with the swing and miss. Whereas Warren and Clark Schmidt have to be around the strike zone. If they're not around the strike zone, they just won't get the swing and miss. But if they are around the strike zone, because they have a deeper arsenal and more deception in their pitches, they become much more effective because of their ability to throw the ball where they need to throw it.
No, totally.
And that's the evolution of them. Like they've we want to see this from Warren more consistently, but to Clark Schmidt's credit, we are seeing that. Like he is around the zone more. He's cut down the walks. He's throwing the ball where the catcher is actually setting up. Whereas 2 years ago, you saw a lot of movement from whoever was catching on that given day because, whether it was a ball or a strike, he just wasn't hitting the right spot.
Yeah, it's their quality, obviously giving them quality innings, and every baseball team needs pitchers to fill out the rotation like Clark Schmidt and Will Warren. It's I think it's telling though that Brian Cashman has spent and the Yankees have spent so much money on the top of the rotation because they have the pitching they've developed is the Clark Schmidt Warren type. It's not the number one pitcher type. Hill might be the exception.
If Clark Schmidt had a 97-mile-an-hour fastball, you'd say something different, but that's just not what he is.
No, I know. Of course. That's all I'm saying.
If you don't have a 97-mile-an-hour fastball, you're not getting that top flight free agent money, period. Like you're just not going to get it.
And you're also you're not dominant, and you need to be dominant. You need to be dominant to be a top of the rotation guy.
And so Luis Gil is within that mold that you're talking about. It's a matter of
let's see what Luis Gil does.
Stay on the field, number one, and then also be able to, stay.
I don't think. Listen, Luis Gil, what he did first half of the season is not sustainable, because eventually tapes out on you. The league has seen you more than one time. You can't live walking 5 or 6 guys.
Well, we saw that. We also saw that with him once he had that unbelievable stretch, and then when he
came back from injury, and so he came back from injury. My point is, he has dominant stuff. He's eventually going to have to rein it in a bit if he's going to be a successful major league pitcher.
100%. He was able to get away with not being able to go around the strike zone until you're right. There was more tape on him. Guys were laying off early in the count and allowing him to get behind in the count. And when he's behind in the count, he's a very different guy. Like you don't have to, you're not looking at a fastball up and away and swinging at it because you could spit on that at that point when you're ahead in the count. So yes, he's a different animal in that regard, but I don't think you're giving enough credit to Clark Schmidt for what he's done I think he's improved quite a bit. And I think that he's turning himself into way more than a 4-5. And I know I have a history with Sonny Gray and the way that he's pitched, but you see a lot, and I've made this comparison in the past. You see a lot of early Sonny Gray with where Clark Schmidt is. You do in the way that they pitch, in the way that they can control the strike zone, and change speeds and their different types of pitches.
Is Clark Schmidt going to be the Sonny Gray that the Yankees got?
He's more headstrong.
Or the Sonny Gray that the Reds got?
He's more headstrong. Well, I don't know. Does the pitching coach follow? Because Sonny needed that.
Yeah, maybe I'm not giving Clark Schmidt enough credit. My opinion.
I just know how you are. I know how you are. You need to see Clark Schmidt shove against a really good team in a moment that the Yankees need it. That's what you need.
No, I mean that would be nice
to validate all his other stuff.
That would be nice. I think Clark Schmidt, his ceiling is a middle of the rotation guy, which is. There's nothing. Why do I even have to say there's nothing wrong with that? Just that's what I think.
Because you're saying 4 or 5. I think when you're looking
on this team, a 4 or 5.
I think there's an ability for a 3. Like he's got 3 potential.
He's got 3 potential on this team. When the rotation is fully healthy, he's a 4 or 5.
Okay. There's a lot of big guys on the top of that rotation.
Yeah, they spent $1 billion on 3 pitchers.
Okay. But yes, he's when you're coming out, no matter who your opponent is, and obviously the Orioles. they have not played the way you'd expect them to play.
Nope.
But
Playing better recently.
They do have guys who can hit on that team.
Last thing I'll say I want to talk about is the AL East. Start of the month, only the Yankees were in a playoff position in the AL East. Now everything's bunched up. Tampa and the Blue Jays and the Red Sox have all been playing much better, but specifically Tampa and Toronto are both in playoff positions right now, and they were not at the start of the month. Boston, we know, has been they're 7-3 in their last 10. They beat the Yankees 5 out of 6 games that they've beat the Yankees. They just lost the series out in San Francisco facing Devers. There's a lot going on with the Red Sox, but my point is 3-4 weeks ago the division was the Yankees and everyone else now, and now it's all bunched up again like we thought it was going to be.
And I know how a lot of people are looking at like this stretch right before the All-Star break seemingly is the Achilles heel of every Aaron Boone team that's ever lived. And they go through this abysmal stretch after starting out hot. Like there's always this extended period where they just shit the bed completely. And here's where let me break some reality to the situation that's about to come up here. We're at June 23rd. The Yankees have a stretch now with Cincinnati 3 games, off day, then the Athletics for 3 games. I almost said Oakland. And from there on, that's the 29th of June. Starting on the 30th of June, they have Toronto, okay? A 4-game set with Toronto. They go, the month of July is a gauntlet for the New York Yankees. You have Toronto 4 games, the Mets for 3. You have Seattle for 3, the Cubs for 3. Then you have the All-Star break. Then you have at Atlanta, at Toronto, Philly at home, Tampa at home for 4. That's a very, very tough month.
No, there's no easy series in that.
Not list. One easy series in that entire month. And then
you know why?
Well, tell me why. There's no AL Central. That's your reason. But that is we're gonna see what's going on with the Yankees in July. Obviously, that's the month of the trade deadline, so there will be a lot of speculation in what Brian Cashman's going to do. And I think the stretch, if you're looking at the opponents, like there's some very tough opponents in here. The Cubs are playing one of the best teams in baseball right now. Atlanta not playing well, but that's a team that can get hot at any point. Toronto, one of the hottest teams over the last month. You're running into a lot of really good teams, and we'll see what the Yankees are made of.
Another
this next month
concerning thing is that the Yankees have not played well against their own division. So I lost the numbers, but they have the worst record intra-division out of anyone in the AL East.
So if this thing gets bunched up and their tiebreakers become a thing, then you're going to be squarely looking at that.
Yes, tiebreakers, but also just like play better against your own division. Like,
yeah. Something Gregory Wayne just said this in the comments, and this is something that has been driving me a little bit crazy. Every single day, sorry, this is totally off topic, but I think this also drives into the inconsistency of this team. Every single day, it seems like there's a new lineup. Every single day, Boone is doing something different with the lineup. A different leadoff guy, Judges going from the 2 to the 3, the 3 to the 2, to the 2 to the 3. The people behind him are different every single day.
He actually explained why.
Even if it's the same players, it's just a different medley of people. What's his explanation for why?
So they have been rotating the leadoff spot between Goldschmidt, Grisham or Rice. Sometimes Bellinger's up there.
Dominguez has been up there
one time. And obviously some of those are right-handed hitters. Some of those are left-handed hitters. Mm-hmm. And he said, quote, "My obsession with balance changes the rest of the lineup." So if it's a lefty, he has to go righty, lefty, righty, lefty. And if it's a lefty, he has to go righty, lefty, righty, lefty. So it's always changing because the leadoff hitter is always changing.
There's something to be said about walking into work every single day and not knowing what you're going to do or where you are. You know what I mean? Like you go to a different cubicle every single day.
I mean, I think
I left some shit in that last cubicle.
I know.
I want to be able to go there. My red stapler is there. I want to be able to sit in that same seat. My ass is like firmly entrenched within the pad of that seat. There's just something to be said knowing what is going to happen. And with baseball, 162 games, having a little bit of consistency, not the worst thing in the world. And he tinkers with this lineup every single day. It's not like occasionally when there's a tough lefty.
It's every day.
It's every single day. And it's exhausting trying to keep up with it. It's
Imagine if you were still making graphics.
I know. Oh my God. And it's just one of those things like it.
Okay, here. I think
it's unnecessary.
I think that
you can't get a good read on anything.
It's a little overblown. You saying, guys coming into work not knowing where they're going to hit. It's a little overblown. It's not like a guy's playing left field one day, first base the next day, catcher the next day. Although Ben Rice, maybe
that's also happening. But that's kind of happening too.
If you're hitting 7th on Saturday and 8th on Sunday, there's no difference to that. Okay, there's no difference. Here's where I think the bigger issue is and why you're seeing the offense be more inconsistent, and offenses that juggle lineups around tend to be more inconsistent. I don't think it has anything to do with guys not hitting in the same position every day. You tend to juggle the lineup around when the lineup is not as good, when the guys are not as good, when you're playing matchups, when you're rotating a lefty into a leadoff based on a righty or vice versa, versus having 1, 2, 3, 4 set every single day, having Derek Jeter, Johnny Damon, Mark Teixeira, Alex Rodriguez to go out and just pencil that in every single day because those guys can hit lefty, righty, submarine guys, overhanders. Doesn't matter. They're going to hit because they're elite. Or last year you had Soto and Judge hitting 2-3 every single day because they're elite. Or the Red Sox had Manny and Ortiz hitting 3-4 every single day because they're elite. The Yankees have one elite hitter.
You also have now 4 former MVPs. Is that right? It's Judge, Goldschmidt,
That's unfair.
Bellinger, and Stanton, right?
The Yankees had a lot of former MVPs when they had Vernon Wells and Andrew Jones playing on their team in 2014, Scott.
But my point is that when you're looking at these guys, like there's another piece of the lineup, I think as well. Like when you know that you're hitting behind a certain person, you kind of know what to expect. If you're hitting in front of Judge or behind Judge, you know a little bit what to expect, especially if you're hitting in front of him. Your approach is possibly a little different. You're looking for certain reads. The guy who's on deck behind you, the guy who's up in front of you, gives you a certain look that you know what to expect. There's just some like consistencies and tells that you can get from having consistency in that lineup. And you just can't have that when you change it every single day. And like, I don't even know how you get good sample data by changing it every single day. What are you looking to see? You are now putting yourself
You're just playing matchups.
Into your day trading and trying to beat the market with like the variables on a given day.
Exactly.
And then you have people that are just changing the way that the environment is in the baseball world because of the type of pitcher that they are. Their lefty righty matchup, their sweeper against the lefty, their sinker against the righty, and you have no idea how these guys are going to hit against that because they have such a small amount of data. When you could tell so much more about a player on June 23rd if you stuck Jason Dominguez in that leadoff spot for a month.
Well, that would require them to play him every day, and they don't do that.
He's hitting in front of Aaron Judge on a daily basis. You would know more about that player than you would know currently, because I know nothing about that player right now. I know nothing about that player besides the fact that he doesn't play every day, doesn't get a lot of consistency at the at-bats. There's not a lot of consistency from the leadership for him. I don't know what he is. And
they did that with Volpe.
Yes, I know.
And what do we know about Volpe?
That there's no competition for that spot. That's what we know.
Listen, it's the same concept as having a starter only go 5 innings, and then you have to nail 4 bullpen arms every single night.
That's different. That's the way baseball has changed. This is Aaron Boone putting his meddling fingers over something that doesn't need to be meddled with.
I do think Boone has a hand in this, but
hold on. Let me say, the nerds telling him to put his little fingers on the thing.
Yes.
Sorry.
Well, they don't have a leadoff hitter. They
could if they just put someone at leadoff and kept them there.
Well, they have Goldschmidt and Rice / Grisham, depending on matchups. And then so that just jumbles everything up. I'm not defending it. I'm just saying, like, this is why it is, because they have the team is largely rotation based. And when it's largely rotation based, you're not going to have consistent lineups.
Yeah. And that's a problem when you have one of the top prospects in your organization who comes up as a left fielder who's a switch hitter.
No,
A
he
switch
only
hitter.
hits lefty. He only
'Cause
hits lefty.
if you have,
When's the last time you saw him hit right-handed?
I'm just saying, if you have a switch hitter that's come up and this kid is the fastest straight line speed on the team, the fastest, by far. When he tagged up to go into third base the other day, it was like super casual, no throw. Oh my God, like the guy's got ridiculous speed. You put him in that spot and you hit him in front of Aaron Judge on a daily basis for a month, you will know a hell of a lot more about him as an offensive player from the left side and the right side, no matter what the matchup is, no matter what the situation is, because you're putting him in there every day. You know, he knows what to expect. These are professional athletes that are going up against some of the best pitching that has ever been in the sport, ever. And you want to keep inconsistencies as part of their game on the offensive side. That is a problem. That is a problem.
It now is with Stanton back becomes even trickier.
I know.
So I don't
look. The fact that he's only been in the leadoff spot one time, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Because there's nothing that he's showing me that's different than anybody else you're throwing up there, unless you're talking about Paul Goldschmidt.
Goldschmidt's been consistent except for a small slump, basically, no matter where they've hit him.
I know. I'm saying that he's been the consistent guy. Like if you're looking at anybody who's been consistent, it's him. He's the one. But I'd rather him in a run production role rather than that spot. I want to know what a guy like Jason Dominguez, who has all the talent in the world, has the ability to switch hit, has all the speed in the world, has all the hype in the world as far as a prospect. I want to see what he can do. And if you put him in front of Aaron Judge, he's going to get a lot more strikes. Just the way it looks. His approach can be different at that point. His approach can be different than it is in the 7 or 8 or 9 spot.
I would keep Judge 2 no matter what. I'm fine giving. I would be fine giving Dominguez a run at the leadoff spot, but I understand that they're probably not going to do it. And so I don't care, even if Goldschmidt's leading off or Ben Rice or Grisham or whoever, I would still keep Judge number 2 and just keep that there because that gets him more at bats. That's sort of like, okay, now we're having the offense sort of like he's the sun and everything else is rotating around him.
I agree. And if you give an opportunity to Jason Dominguez in that top spot, in that leadoff spot, you're committing to the fact that he is a switch hitter. He can play against different pitchers, and you're going to give him the opportunity to work through it and get better. He's a young player that needs to get better.
I'd at least like to see if it's possible. Like, let's see it. Like I love what Trent Grisham gave, but like, I'm okay if Trent Grisham is just the 4th outfielder. Like, that's okay with me.
Yeah. Having some pop in the bottom of the lineup. Good thing. That's a good thing.
All right. So that's going to wrap up today's show. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Next week is the 4th of July week. Scott and I are both traveling, so we're not going to be recording an episode. There will be no YouTube live next Monday morning. Sorry for that. It's going to be the first week we're taking off in 11 years. So we've earned it. Obviously, one of us has been out at any given time, but never both of us. Maybe we'll post some throwback stuff. I know we usually around the 4th of July repost the Lou Gehrig famous Luckiest Man speech, which happened on the 4th of July. Maybe we'll do that. Or maybe go back into the archives and post something else. But even if we don't, you guys will be able to catch us again 2 weeks from this Monday, whatever that date is. I don't know, 7th, July 7th.
The 4th is the Friday, then 5th,
July
6th, 7th. Yes.
July 7th. We'll be back again for a new episode, a live episode, July 7th.
Enjoy Susan Walden's vest.
We'll talk to you then.